People need to understand that being anti what's going on in our country right now doesn't mean you're a Republican or a conservative or a right-winger or some pro-Donnie Shill. It's not always left-right. It means you're pro-America, and more specifically, you're America first. What it means is you're pro-people, you're pro-freedom, you're pro-Constitution. People are so quick to dismiss this document because of who signed it or who was involved or their misgivings at that time. And they forget that this single document is the most important document for retaining your rights. It's to protect you from the overbearing power of a tyrannical government. The specific powers that are enumerated in this document are only to limit the government and to protect you. The rights are for you. If they don't have something explicitly written that they are able to do, they can't do it. The simplest and easiest trap is to say, oh, you're anti-Joe, or oh, you're making fun of Joe, or oh, you're making fun of Kamala. It's because you're some pro-Donnie Shill. It's because you're a right-winger. Anything that doesn't look like what you would already be predetermined to be assumed to agree with, that's why you're against it. You're not against it for what's actually within the contents of what they're saying. You're not actually against it because of what they're doing. Unfortunately, these are the people that are in power right now. These are the things that are happening. They may happen to be doing more of it on the left or right side of the aisle, but we'll call out anything that's not pro-America. Most of us, including people on the left, don't have that level of party loyalty. Now, let's be honest. Generally speaking, if you're going to call out hypocrisy, if you're going to call out misgivings, if you're going to call out misdeeds, it's much easier and probably more beneficial to your general disposition of thinking to blame and or point out the misgivings of people that are on the opposite side of the argument. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's the most obvious thing that you would point out, because ultimately, though you may not agree with everything on your supposed side or your supposed team, you still want them to win because you believe generally their decisions are better than the ones on the other side, most of the time. The sad reality of this game, which all of us were unwillingly put into, when we were born, there was a two-party trap. We didn't choose this, but what all of us tend to understand is that we have to figure out how to win the race generally. We don't need to win every individual war. We need to win the battle, which is why people traditionally and more often than not align with a party or a side on most issues. And even if they don't completely agree with it, they generally feel like their decision or their view of it is probably better than the one that comes out of the other side. So let's be honest and let's start straight from the top. I'm going to go Eminem in the 8 Mile freestyle battle. Burn yourself first. There are a lot of people in the bureaucracy. Not every person with an R or a D in front of your name you're going to always agree with. There's bad apples on both sides. It's very easy to point out one person or a handful of people on your side doing crazy things. Let's just dismiss that. There's crazy people on the left. There's crazy people on the right. There's crazy R's. There's crazy D's. All of us, specifically lower and middle class people, are affected by inflation. Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, he was appointed under Donnie. They printed more money. 40% of all the U.S. currency in existence was printed in the last handful of years. Donnie had a hand in that. Let's be honest about it. As the person who holds the highest office in the land and is thus the example that should be set for all people of the planet and really all citizens of our country, is that person whom represents us. Should they be tangled in Twitter spats? Should they be tangled in name calling and insults like that? Absolutely not. The vast majority of us disagree with that. Does the guy say and act on things that are generally undesirable for the movement as a whole? Yes, but the reality is that he represents the movement. It's not about him as a person. It's about the decisions and policies that are made by this person and the leadership of the entire cabinet and all the people that work in that administration. You can't just dismiss from the top down all of the good things that happen because you disagree with one person at the top. I'll admit that for either side. Did he get plenty of donations and financing from all of those companies, the juice companies? Absolutely. Is he friends with all of those people? Absolutely. Did he go and push and try to suggest that people go and get it? Absolutely. There's no denying that. The evidence is clear. We're not going to say that that didn't happen, and it doesn't continue to happen. But on that topic, let's try not to forget, there was a pretty strong opposing force that was trying to get him to shut up about the alternative solutions, about the other things that you could take that may have prevented it. There was a pretty heavy onslaught trying to prevent him from getting any message out other than the one that fit in the approved narrative. Let's all acknowledge that. Was an outrageous amount of money printed? Yes. Were states locked down? Yes. Did that all happen under his watch? Yes, it did. Was what happened in January a bad thing? Absolutely. Certainly it was. Not a good look. All of us will generally agree for that to be true. Was directing people to go down there and protest peacefully, was that a good idea? In hindsight, probably not. Are you in control of what people do as a result after? Are you in control of the trap that gets set by other powers to basically encourage that stuff to happen by opening the doors and not having people covering and protecting that establishment? Sure, it was wrong both ways. All fine with that. If you're going to act like they opened those doors on their own, like they understaffed that building on their own, like it was as violent and as evil and as full stop terrible as everybody makes it out to be, this fearful thing that was actually going to happen, was there actually real tremendous amounts of danger? Absolutely not. Do all those people deserve to be rotting in cells without a trial right now as a result of it? Absolutely not. Were the three-letter organizations involved and had a hand in inciting all of that stuff? Absolutely. Was the things that they suggest were going on that day? Oh, they planted this, they planted that. They got a video footage of a guy walking around that was supposedly a guy that planted, but you never found him. The only person that actually perished that day was an unarmed, you know what I'm saying? Is it what they say it is? Absolutely not. Is there lying everywhere all the time? Absolutely. So let's not go pearl clutching about that event. Maybe we can move on from that. Now let's take the selection. You want to say that it was the most fair and most secure that ever was in history? Sure, I totally believe that lie. We've all seen the 2,000 donkeys. We've seen that. Okay, fine. We've all seen the fact that you had a full media onslaught protecting and insulating every single possible thing. I didn't see any people in any Build Back Better hats. I didn't see any people at those rallies. I didn't see any people out in the streets supporting this person outwardly. Was it the safest and fairest in history? I don't know about that, but let's just pretend that it was squared up. Let's just pretend that this actually happened, that this is the most popular guy literally in history. Let's just pretend and dismiss that for a second. What is the most blaring and obvious representation of this very clear and obvious fact is the two bills that were concurrently passed and denied in the Senate yesterday. I just want you to know, and what I think most of us America First people realize, is that these people, red, blue, RD, they have chosen outwardly, the vast majority of them, to not represent our interests. In the exact same session, the people that are supposed to represent us, the American people, on both sides of the aisle, denied an economic aid package worth $48 billion to American small businesses, gyms, live event operators, restaurants, and the small business owners of America. They denied billions of dollars to American citizens, citing that it would cause more inflation, and then simultaneously, in the exact same breath, approved $40 billion to go send to the Crane and President t-shirt. They're sending them $40 billion in economic aid and a variety of other things. One thing doesn't do inflation, but then the other one doesn't. I wish more people that considered themselves to be left or Democrat or progressive or whatever else realize that we are all not that much different. We all actually agree on a lot of things. They just don't want us to think that we agree. We're not too different, you and I. Literally hundreds of Republicans pushed this bill through in the House to send this money overseas. And what's even more disgusting and infuriating about all this is that only 11 Republicans actually voted against this bill in the Senate. Only 11 people actually had the stones to stand up for the financial interests of their own country. People need to understand is that the vast majority of people that are holding on to the grips of power in this country, left, right, middle, however you want to call it, are financially beholden to their masters. They are corrupted, they are bought and paid for. These are not your everyday citizens. These are not your average Joes and Janes. These are career politicians that have produced almost nothing for the free market, for the free world. These people are bought off, paid off. Many of them are over 60, 70, 80 years old. They do not represent us on either side. These are our supposed leaders, but they are corrupted, bought and paid for hypocrites, the vast majority of them. They love the accolades. They love being in the news. They love signing autographs and taking pictures and shaking hands and yelling about the other party and saying that they represent such and such a value, and then they vote the other way. Because the vast majority of people, the true plague in this country is that people don't pay pay attention. They don't look at the follow-through. They don't look at the follow-through. They don't do the research. They don't do the searching. They don't read the bills. They just do surface-level research. They do surface-level commentating, and then they go out and yell in the street about it. People don't pay attention, and that's why we've been sold out on both sides all day, left, right, up and down. Look around. You don't have to be in a party to understand that the gas prices are hitting a record high. You don't have to be choosing a party to understand that energy independence is important for our country and has been discussed in public for decades. Yet here we are, limiting it on purpose. Oh, they didn't sign the leases. Did you look into it? Did you read what it says? We were energy independent 2.5 years ago, and now we're not. That is a result of leadership. I don't care what side you associate with. Look at it. Let's look at just what's going on now. You want to blame some things on Donnie. You want to blame some inflation on Donnie. That's totally fine. I'm fine with that. But let's address the problems that are at hand right now. Let's address the policies that are in control right now. Gas, fuel, energy, it is the lifeblood of our economy and ultimately the lifeblood of the entire world. If you don't produce it, you're beholden to masters overseas. Aramco is making record profits. That's an overseas corporation. That could be drilled here. That could be produced here, yet people tie everybody up in the emotional game. It's like people are going hungry here. What's happening at the border? Here. What's happening with babies not having formula? Here. What's happening with gas prices? Here. What's happening with potentially $10 a gallon? Here. What's happening with all the prices going through the roof? Your cost of living decreasing. You getting involved in a hot war overseas. All that stuff is happening. I don't care who's in the office. I don't care who's in control. These people don't represent us, and whatever is happening right now, it's going bad quick. Yet we're all tangled up in the personal attack. We're all here butting heads with each other instead of pointing squarely at the people that are actually responsible for the policies and decisions that make all this stuff happen. We live in the most prosperous and free nation human existence has ever known in the history of the world. We should have products. We should have low prices. We should have competition. We should have people prospering. And here, what are we doing? All of us, left, right, or indifferent, red, blue, or not paying attention. We're being sold out to the highest bidder. And in case people forgot, the world is a competition. And there are a couple big players right now that are going to eat our lunch if we don't pay more attention. Your cost of living is up. Your quality of life is down. Your freedom is being limited. They are detaching you from your friends and family. They are detaching you from the nuclear family. They're detaching you from your own rights, from your own interest, from your own earnings, from your own livelihood, from your own career, from your own family, from your own bodily autonomy. They are selling your interests to foreign actors. They're selling your land, they're selling your money, they're selling your manufacturing process, they're selling your IP, they're selling your jobs to foreign adversaries that don't like us very much. Look at where we're borrowing our money from. All of us have been designed to intentionally feel detached from the system, detached from influence, detached from the ability to really institute change. We don't even understand how much power we actually have. We don't understand how much capacity we actually have. We don't understand how much we actually have to give, and that if this was to be saved, when it is saved, the only people who can do it is us. Because what do they want? They want money and power, the oldest two desires in the book. First, the money. Rich people are not affected by the price of gas, by the price of eggs at the grocery store. Their asset prices are being inflated. Their homes are going up at a record pace. Their properties are going up at a record pace. All of the other assets are being inflated along with the money supply. So it's the people that have cash, the people that work for their cash. Those are the ones that lose. The rich people are just fine with inflation because the assets go up accordingly. On top of that, they can get leverage for pennies on the dollar. They can borrow at some of the lowest interest rates in history. Whenever they're short on cash, they can just borrow against their inflated assets. They have great relationships with all the financial institutions that give them access to cash so that they can weather the storm while you all suffer. And while everybody else gets completely burnt out and wiped out, they can scoop up your undervalued assets for pennies on the dollar because they have access to the cash. Plus, what they have access to more than anybody else is information, and more importantly, the speed of information. They know when a contract is going to be awarded and or a company is going to be anointed by the bureaucracy, so they can invest their low interest cash that they're getting probably on leverage for pennies on the dollar in a company that they know is going to win. It's insider trading at scale with no accountability whatsoever. Because who's going to hold them accountable? Who are the lawmakers? Who are the people that are going to hold them to task? The people aren't going to know about it because it's not going to go through the traditional media funnels because they got all them bought and paid for. If they make the right donations to the right organizations, people will keep quiet and look the other way. Meanwhile, they finance all the people that got in office to begin with. They're not going to pursue with any investigation or hold them accountable. They're all bought and paid for. They're all on the money train. They're all downstream from the cash flow. So they're basically immune to any repercussions. The people that are supposedly in power, there's a formula for how they stay or lose power. The people that have the money, the people that have the real power, the people that anoint these other people into these positions, those people don't get elected. Those people never go away. They're not gone in 2 years, 4 years, 8 years. They're there to stay. They're the kingmakers. They're the ones who finance the operation that get these temporary conduits, these middlemen, these middlewomen in power in between. Those are the people that are really in power. They just put those guys in prop them up in front of you so you have somebody to blame. As soon as they slip up, they pay them off and they disappear. They go to pasture. They get a cushy cash flow job or a $100,000 speaking fee or whatever, and they just disappear into the ether. Meanwhile, they got theirs. They took care of their family. They took care of their family tree. They're bought and paid for, and they feel like they probably did something, and people are out there like, good job. You did a great job. And boom, just like that, anoint a new one, place a new one in power, puppet them around, give them the cash necessary in order to put them and hold them in that position so that they can do your bidding until they slip up. Then next, anoint the next one. The formula is clear. They make a mistake, destroy them, destroy their character, smear them in the public, find somebody to make an accusation, maybe an unprovable accusation, tangle it up in court for years. Meanwhile, the damage is already done. They know how to run you down. The formula is clear. Historical precedent shows and proves to them that they are firmly in control. And if anybody actually questions it, if anybody actually goes toe-to-toe with them face-to-face, they're like, oh, wouldn't want you to make the same mistake that this person made. Look what happened to him or her. You wouldn't want that to happen to you, would it? What about the power? What more power is there than saying that you're a prisoner in your own home, a prisoner of how far that you can travel, what planes you can get on, what buses you can have? What about your ability to control your money, to control your income, to control your freedom? Well, you're not allowed to have a firearm. You're not allowed to protect yourself. You're not allowed to run your small business. You're not allowed to let people into your small business. You can't employ the people that you wanted to employ. Meanwhile, we're going to spy on you, trace you, investigate you, label you as something, not allow you to do certain things, make things inconvenient for you so you know to not step to your masters. Then after all that, we're going to put things in your body against your will. If you dare step out of line, we're going to show you what happens to people that step out of line, that go against the narrative. You're going to watch them get burned on live TV. You're going to watch them have their castles crumbled to the ground intentionally. You know what's going on. You know who did it, but we're not going to say anything. We're just going to look at you and watch while you recognize it. What's next? We're going to hide in plain sight. We're going to rub it in your face. We're going to make it so obvious that you can't not see it. And then on top of that, we're going to double down and we're going to make the symbolism so clear that anybody that's a free thinker, anybody with a discerning mind can just look at the symbolism, how we hide in plain sight, how we rub it in your face and laugh at you about it. And then when you talk about it, when you point it out, when you communicate this to other people, when you ask others if they see what you see, we burn you down, just like we burn down anybody that questions our authority. We trap you in your own mind. We trap you socially, financially. You are beholden. You are subservient. Then we take your money. We take your health. We take your freedom. We corrupt your children. We teach them the wrong things. We rub it in your face every single day. We burn the value of your money out from right inside your pocket. We smear it in the face that we all have more power, more authority, more riches than you. And you have no choice but to fall in line or get out of the way. At the end of it all, the greatest and only threat to this continuous and perpetual trap that's been put on our people, our brothers and sisters, our ancestors for generations upon generations is unity, is the people understanding and being able to recognize the trap that we're all in. Unification of the people in understanding the lie, in understanding the trap, in understanding that it's not about left, right. It's about human beings, not just in America, but in the entire world. The greatest threat to them is us being together. Unity is the answer, and awareness, knowledge, information, and truth is the only solution. I love people that look at problems differently, that have different solutions for what's going on. And what I love the most of all is this country and what it represents, because I understand the promise that it has for all people of the world, not just here. Because what it represents is unity. What it represents is freedom.